Okay, so now we'll take some example HTML tags and see its implementation. So many times we by now we saw that p tag represents paragraph. So if we create an element using p tags, that represents a paragraph. Apart from that, we have also seen div, where it represents a division or part of a web page. It is actually a generic container, generic block container. So there are other types of containers like span, which are inline containers. But that will come later. Apart from that, there are headings. There are six level of headings: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and these are something like all are definitely headings, but H1 is the largest, H2 is smaller, H3 is smaller than that, and H6 is smallest in that order. Uh, Apart from that, there are also these tags like A. They are used for creating links, hyperlinks. Strong and B, both of these tags are used for bold text. So actually this bold, whatever is written, you can say it's wrong. Actually strong means it is a it when actually it will be rendered like a bold, but actually it is not bold as per se. I will just explain the difference in a bit. Actually strong and B have slightly different meaning. I'll come back to that point in a bit. But that same differentiation is here also. EM and I. EM means emphasis and I is italic. Actually in any desktop browser or that sort of thing, if you render, then EM tag and I tag both will render the same thing, which is italic text. Again, I'll come back to the difference between these two. Now span, as I told earlier, that it is a container. The difference is that it is an inline container. Okay. Now there's a difference between block and inline that I will come to next in next set of HTML video. But right now you just think it like that a block. And here for context, I would like to say that the blue ones are inline and this sort of orange ones are block tags. Now what do I mean by block tag? So you can understand it like that block tags will take the whole row in itself. So let's say h1 is written, right? So h1 is written, then it will take the whole row, which means that any other tag will generally will not be there in that row until unless like you do it specifically, you force it by using some css or by styling. You can obviously style things, but in general that thing will take the whole row, which means that let's say something came before that, then this thing cannot come beside that. This block tags will definitely start from new line and take the whole line. That is what block tags mean. In contrast, uh, these things are these blue ones. These are like sort of inline tags which don't start a new line, which don't spawn a new line. Which means that if there is a paragraph, let's say, and some word in the paragraph you made bold, then that thing is just one of the or a few of the words in between the paragraph is bold. It's not that bold part is taking a new line as such, right? It is part of the flowing content, and among that flowing content some part is made some specific tag which is inline, which means that it will not take a new line as such for itself. Next, we'll see some implementation that okay how this is going to operate. I will also touch upon some things like okay, what is the difference between div and p. So for now we were seeing that okay, p is simply giving hello world, and let's say I change it to div, right? Div, sorry, yeah. So this thing, so div is also doing the same thing. So what do you think? What is the difference? So basically, the difference is that uh, div is actually just a partitioning sort of thing. It does not do any other thing other than just saying that it is a partition. It will not add any gap, margin, spacing, or anything like that. However, P is like you are saying that it is a paragraph, which means that if, let's say, there is one paragraph and then after that the second paragraph is coming, then obviously there should be some gap in between that. So all those minute things are taken care by the browser to show that it is a paragraph. Okay, I'll come back to that and I'll also show you how it looks. But before that, let me explain one point, that why we need like all these things. We know that yeah, we know that there is CSS and you can style things. So why we need, for example, why we need P and div, or like why can't we simply have something like text, and then we put text inside that, and we can style that text using CSS whatever way we want. Similarly, why do we need H1, H2, H3, H5, H6, whatever these headings in different sizes? Why can't we have simply, let's say, heading H, let's say only H tag, and then we can use CSS to change its sizes. Let's say this much size, or smaller size, or bigger size. Those things we can do, right? So, but why we need these different tags? Obviously, we need tags for structuring, but here we are, as we are seeing that we are going into like specifics, and we are going in somewhat more detailed way to specifically say that that content is of what type or subtype. Like many types of text can be there, but I'm saying that is it heading text or is it paragraph text? Now there can be many types of headings. I'm saying whether it is H1 heading or H2 heading. Why we are going in that detail? The answer to that is uh, is that basically the HTML has one more purpose apart from simply structuring the web page. It has one more purpose, that it has to structure in such a way that it holds the semantic meaning of various HTML elements, as well as it helps in accessibility, right? So accessibility, let's Google this thing, accessibility. So see, accessibility is basically as we can see, that ability to access and benefit from some system or entity, which means that, let's say, some differently abled person is there. Let's say they are blind, or let's say some other differently abled in some other way. Then we need our websites to handle those things also. Now you tell me that if we simply have, let's say, heading H, and there can, and in a web page there are, like, let's say, at 5 places there are headings, how we will and using CSS you have made it big, small, right? But only using the, let's say, you come here, only using the HTML, how do you know that what is the main part? So if some, let's say, some screen reader for blind people is trying to read this page, then how it will know that which is the main thing? So for example, let's say some header is there, some top navbar is there, then some this header is there, and some, let's say, here also some header tag is there. Now how we know that this thing is the main header of the whole page content? That is because if we say that this is H1 and some other header is also there, and we say that that is H3, then we say that, okay, in a page generally a single H1 will be there, which means that wherever H1 is there, that is the main content. So we'll say that inside H1 this thing is there, so this is the main content. So what screen readers will do, screen readers, when they will start reading this page, they will automatically say that page title is example domain. You understand, right? It's not about just styling, it's also about semantic meaning of the HTML, of the web, right? And that semantic meaning which I said, in that sense, there is a term called semantic web. That same thing will also impact this. What is the difference between strong and B and EM and I? That anyways I will cover after some time. So let's come back to this. We were discussing that P and div. Okay, so div is like a general division. You put some text inside it. It will be also like normal visible, unstyled, because I have not done anything. P, if I put it inside P, then what is going to be? Is there going to be any difference? Let's see. So let's say I have done something like this, and let's duplicate it. So let's say hello world 1, and then you duplicate it 2 times more. So hello world 2, hello world 3, right? Now you see that if you see the output, then it is obviously hello world 1, 2, 3. And mind you that why they are in all in different lines, as we said earlier, that div are block level elements, block level text, right? And because of that, this div will take the whole line. So when I am writing this hello world 2, it has to come in the second line. Again, when I am writing hello world 3, it has to come in the third line, because again this div has taken the whole second line. Anyways, we will come in detail about in some other video about what is the difference between block elements and inline elements, but for now this should be enough. Okay, but you see that it's like this. Now let's try to change something. So let's say this one of the div, you change it to P, right? And now try to see what is the difference. See, so actually what has happened is that uh, what if paragraph is there, then the browser automatically adds some space above and some space below paragraph. Okay, so that is what is happening to. So to prove the point, you can see that if I move this hello world 1 below, then I just have below this, because obviously there is nothing above, that's why there is no gap above. But you see that after the paragraph we have some gap, and then hello world 1 is starting, that is one. So again we'll do same like that, and let's now properly write it that this is a div, something like that, and you write is here that this is a paragraph. Okay, so now we'll see that if we have something like this, then there's a div, and the paragraph is having some space above and below. That is one of the differences, right? Okay, before, so let's keep just one div and one P. This should be enough. Okay, now before we move forward, let's do one thing. Let's check this in the HTML validator, because we discussed it. Okay, so in this we'll see yeah. So in this we'll see that yeah, so these three errors I told you earlier to ignore for now. That is fine, but apart from that there are no errors, right? So this is like all good. Let's see. Next, what we will do is that we will try to see another difference between div and P. So what is happening is that, see, if this div is there, and if I put it inside another div, right, then is there any issue? See, there is no issue. And if I take this markup and try to validate it, see what will happen. Again there is no issue, right? Still 3 warnings only, 3 errors only. So in that sense this is working fine. Now let's try to do the same thing here. There is a P, inside that P is there. Now you see, if I take this and do something like this, then you see there is another error which we are getting. No p element in scope, but a p end tag is seen. Let me see. Yeah. So actually that is a problem. So actually we can nest div inside div, but we cannot nest p inside p, and that is what it is saying, that we can't have p element in a scope, but p and tag is seen. So when I ended this, right, when I ended this, then whatever paragraph was there, like it never thought that this p is starting and again after that p will start. It was never expected by the browser, by the validator also. So that's why when this p is ended, then obviously any paragraph which is earlier starting, that has ended. So this is sort of redundant, so this is not expected. So that is what I was saying, that you cannot do something like this, that p and inside p, so that is one of the things which I would say that is the difference between div and p. Anyways, for our simplicity, we will simply say that whenever there is any nesting or sort of structuring is there, div will always be helpful. And that's why people who use HTML, CSS, and for that matter any front end developer will use div very frequently, because it is like it will not have those restrictions like here we saw just now. So let's now keep our things simple, and for now we are fine. Okay. Okay, that is fine. Now next what we are going to do is that we will take some of the tags and we'll try to render it inside the browser, the standard tags. P and div we have seen, we will do try to do the same thing with h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6. See, uh, okay, so I will discuss this later, but there is one another tag called br, which is for changing the for doing a new line. But again I will come back to it later, so you understand. Like for example, if I have this div, let's say, so let's say something like this. So let's say this is a div 1 and this is div 2. It is something like this is there, right? This is div 1, this is div 2. If you put a br tag, then see a new one line gap has come. If you again put a br tab, then two gap lines, so it will give an, but this is something called self closing tags, which I have not discussed till now. So I will take it separately after some time, but for now you should if you see it somewhere, then that should be fine for you. Okay, so now let's go back here where we were there. Just wanted to show you something like h1. So let's say this is h1 tag, and we'll see that, see div paragraph like earlier. Now this is h1 tag, so this is h1 tag. Now if you do something like this, that you create a h2 tag and this is h2, then see what will happen. See, this is also a header, but it's just the case that it is a slightly smaller level header. So this is like big header, this is slightly smaller header. That is the only difference. Apart from that, all these spaces which you see in between, or like this is a header, so it will take browser will give its own space above and below. Similarly, this will also get some space above and below. So some these are called margins and all. These are automatically provided by the browsers for these header tags, because obviously these are like sort of big headers. Let's say this one might be a page header, so you must give it proper spacing. So those all those things are taken care by the browser. But the main point is that if you are having h1 h2, then in a similar fashion you are having h3, you are having h4, you are having H5 and you have H6. Till H6 you have. See, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Till H6, no, H7 is nothing called H7. So see, you cannot. In fact, if you try to create also H7, it will give you error. Error in the sense that that thing will not be rendered as such. So I will show you it later. But for now, just see H1 to H6. So you see H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, right? So you understand that it's just that all are headers. It's just that H1 is the biggest one, H6 is the smallest one. That's it. Now you understand that this is the default behavior. Everything among this can be changed using our custom styling. But it's just that semantically H1 is the main header, biggest header. H2 is the using CSS. What we can do is that we can make this also bigger, like in fact bigger as like this, and we can make H1 also smaller using CSS. We can decrease its font size. Those and all things can be done, but semantically this is the meaning of these things. Now let's try H7 as I mentioned. So H7, if you have some plugins installed in VS Code, sometimes automatically you can get warnings here in VS Code only. But I think I don't have that sort of plugins installed right now. But anyways, if we see here, then see this is like just a normal text. That's it, which means that it has ignored everything. It's just that it does not understand what tag is there, so it is basically just like normal text is rendered. But it is not a H7 tag. So just I'm trying to say H7, there is nothing called H7 tag. So it is a normal text, there is nothing called. So definitely this is not valid. Only H1 to H6, this thing is valid, right? Okay, so that thing is fine. Now I will come back to inline elements like span and a after some time. But for the time being, what I will do is that I'll just show you this just these two, bold italic text, and then what is the difference between strong and B and EM and I. That slight description I will give, and then later we will come in detail that what are inline text, inline tags, right? Okay, so let's see. uh, so let's try here. Let's say for just for the sake of clarity, what I will do is that I will create a div, and inside div, let's say I create some text, something like B, and like I write like bold text. Okay, so when you refresh it, you see that this. So you see that if you would write a normal, if you would have written a normal, no thing, let's say in P or div, whatever you would have written, then this would be not bold, right? This would be not bold. See, this is not bold. But if you put B, then it is bold, right? That is fine. However, now I would tell you something like strong. There is something called strong tag. So rather than B tag, I can also use strong tag, and if I refresh it, then you basically see no difference. Now, why they are in the same line, that we discussed earlier, right? That these are inline elements and they don't take separate space, so they might come one after the other. Anyways, just for clarity, let's put a break, line break, so it will be clearer. But anyways, so this thing is strong text and this is bold text, but you see there is no difference. Basically, both are bold only, right? So why there are two separate tags for this thing like bold or strong? Similarly, I will show you one another thing, that something like uh, let's say italic text is there. So I, and I write italic text. So italicized text, you understand? No? It is slightly tilted. That text I'm talking about. So this thing is this, right? Let's have a new line here so that it looks slightly better. Okay, so this is italic text, but in the same manner, like there is strong, we have a em tag which is for emphasis, and if we write that, then this emphasized, I'm just writing emphasized text. Okay, if you see, then basically again we'll say that this is also italic only. So for clarity, just again put here also a new line, and it should be, this should be fine, and we'll see that again. Okay, so both are italic only. So what is the difference? Now let me come back to that point which I was saying, that strong and be both, strong is not bold, but it will look like bold in many browsers. Similarly, em is not italic, but it will look like italic in many browsers. But what is the difference? The difference is that uh, this b tag and I tag are basically giving the style of text, that it should be bold and it should be italic, right? But strong and emphasis, these are called semantic tags. It is part of the semantic web structure. There's a term for that, where you say that, okay, I am just saying one thing, that my text should be stronger, should be more weighted than the environment text, which means that how you make that happen, that is up to you. I'm not saying that make it bold or make it do that. I am not saying that. I am saying that this is definitely somewhat, it should have more weight than the surrounding text. Now, obviously, if browsers can make it slightly bolder, then that is the easiest way to make something stronger than the rest of the environment, like something which is in the neighborhood of, or in the vicinity of that text. The best way to make it strong. However, the problem is that this bold thing might not be applicable in all environments. For example, many mobile devices, the fonts are already bold, because because those fonts are thin and mobile devices screens are small. So already the fonts which you are seeing on the mobile devices, they are already bold. Then how do you make bold more bolder? You understand? And now that might create more problems. Understand? So the semantic web will take care of it, that okay, the browser will understand that what I have to do. You understand? Na? In B, you are saying that make it bold, but what if it is already bold? You cannot. Then this will go unchanged, unrendered, which means that if I write something to the left, something to the right, and in between I am writing B tag, then all the three will be same on mobile. In desktop it will be clear if the middle one will be bold and left and right will not be bold, but in mobile, if already everything is in bold, then all the three will be in bold and you will not differentiate. Here you are specifically saying that, you know what, I want this thing to be slightly stronger than the other parts which are there in my vicinity. Then browser will figure that out. Okay, that HTML is saying to make it somewhat more stronger, give it more weight. Now, how it will do it, that browser will figure it out. Which means that in mobile browsers, it might figure it out. There are some devices where bold thing is not at all there. For example, some devices, digital assistants, PDAs are there, right? In that, bold font is not at all existent in some systems. In that case, again, if you have strong tag and then that device has a proper HTML parser, then it will see that, okay, I have to somehow make it more stronger. Then they will decide that how they are going to do that. It might be that they do some sort of a solid underlining under the text and to show it that it is stronger. It's just a mechanism of saying that it is somewhat give it more priority or more weightage than the vicinity. You understand? So it is like a confusing thing, but this is called semantic web, and it says that what you want rather than how you style. But you understand that in like normal browsers, both will render same. In fact, when you try to create something bold, I would suggest that use strong. Similarly, when you try to create, and the same thing which I differentiation I said, same here also, that if I want to emphasize something, then that is emphasis, and that will, if and the styling is basically italic, so same different same thing will happen here also. So when you want to generally italicize something rather than I tag, rather try to use em tag. And same similarly, for if you want to make something more prominent, then rather than using bold tag, use the strong tag, and that will work mostly at all the places, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so that should be all for now. Next, we will try to go somewhat more deep into block tags and inline tags.